Welcome everyone. Welcome to our new series of GCSE videos made for the children who are giving GCSEs. This video is basically we have made for GCSE children who are giving English language tomorrow. And these are last minute tips which I want to give you guys about English language paper 2. As you guys know that this paper is non-fiction. So what are the questions you'll be expecting in this paper and what all you could do to get grade 9? I'm going to share a screen with you all and I'll go through some of the basic things what you all need to go, and I will do some prediction to see that these are some of the predictions. Just try revising other things also. Just don't go for the prediction only. And this prediction will tell you guys what all you can get in your GCSE paper 2, which is tomorrow. So let's get started. I'll share my screen and I'll hide myself. So if you look at the screen, it tells you a quick note on the paper. So what are the key timings for the paper, how many questions you'll get, and what all you will be expecting to do. So you have 1 hour and 45 minutes to do this paper. So this is known by this, all of you must know till now because you must have done a lot of mock papers regarding this. So the key timings for language paper 2, you basically have 1 hour and 45 minutes. And if you are being given extra time, you will be given more time, like you will be giving 15 minutes extra if you are eligible for that, or this is the basic time what every one of you will be getting. So your reading time mainly is for 10 minutes. You need to read both sources carefully, thinking very carefully about what each writer's viewpoint is on the topic they are writing about. So you are mainly given 10 minutes to read the paper. So you have 10 minutes to read the paper. Then you have question 5, that's 35 to 40 minutes. Question 1 is an easy one. All of you must have know that. It's only 5 minutes. And question 2, you should spend around 10 to 15 minutes in that one. And question 3 is 15 to 20 minutes. And the last one must be your creative writing or a letter writing, depends what you will get. In that, you need to spend 20 to 25 minutes. So let's see what else more they are telling you about this. So let's talk about question 1. What you will be getting in question 1. So let's all read this now.
Q1. Shade the correct boxes, 5 minutes. Ensure you understand how to shade the circles correctly for question 1. Students should not write T or F next to the statements. This tests your ability to RTFQ and ATFQ. Put dots next to the statements you believe are true before you shade the boxes. Check your answers carefully. Scan for synonyms as well as exact matches in the text. They may use different vocabulary, e.g., 100 years in the text and century in the statement. Read the whole sentence, not just bits of it, and check you have understood it properly.
So this is basically what you have to do in number 1. You should not spend more than 5 minutes in question number 1. Now let's talk about what do you expect in question number 2.
Q2, 28. Q2, summarizing differences and making inferences, 8 marks, 10-15 mins. What did the examiner's report say? RTFQ and ATFQ. If it asks for differences, then please do not write about similarities. The key skills for this question are to identify the similarities or differences and to interpret the writer's ideas in each text, making inferences about what the writer is implying based on textual evidence. Referring to the different time periods is not in itself a valid difference. Inference is the skill whereby you draw a conclusion based on evidence. For example, if a girl were described to be crying, you could infer that she was upset. If you make no inferences, then the best mark you can get is 2.8.
So you need to be really careful what they're asking and stick to that and don't give extra information. Because the examiner is not asking you guys to give any extra information. They just want you to stick to the point and answer it really carefully.
The top level skill of synthesis is defined as the combination of The writer implies here that. This implies. This carries the. And ATQs. So what are the top tips for question 2? Spend around 10 to 15 minutes on this question. RTQ and ATQ use brief quotations and discuss both texts in each of your paragraphs. Sometimes it might be difficult to find a quote, but you can still refer to something in the text. Use connectives to link interpretations of the two texts. Some connectives to use for comparison. Oh, by contrast, however, this is markedly different from. This differs from, while source B similarly explores XXX, there is a clear difference in XXX. Moving on to source B, it is immediately possible to see a clear contrast with the depiction of XXXX in source A. Make inferences. For example, it does not tell you that Glastonbury is civilized or that Greenwich was a brawl, but you can infer this from what you have read. Some phrases to use to telegraph your inferences. Oh, from this we can infer. There is the clear suggestion here that. The writer implies here that. This implies. This carries the suggestion that. The implication here is that. The idea of XXXX in source A is apparent as XXXX emphasizes that.
So, when you have to structure a language paper to question 2 response to ensure I write it clearly, you have to be really clear. You should structure each paragraph like this: a comparative topic sentence which picks out on an overall difference between the two sources, that ATFQ, a detailed point about what we see in the source A, using quotations and making inferences, a connectives, example, a contract, wherever this is a source may markedly different from a detailed point about what we see in source B, using quotations, making inferences, and picking out precise differences. Are they very different? Are they slightly different? Precisely what is different? So you have to be really careful what you answering. So we are going to look at an example now. Can I look at an example of paragraph question on specimen paper A on page 9 and page 11? So this is something about a sample paper. How do you answer it? We have just told you. So let's look at this one and we'll tell you how to answer it.
Can I look at an example paragraph from a question on specimen paper A on P9, P11? Q2. You need to refer to source A and source B for this question. Both sources give details about the places where the events occur. Use details from both sources to write a summary of the differences between Aberfan and London. 8 marks. A. Perhaps the most obvious differences between London and Aberfan are their respective sizes and locations. B. Writer in source A emphasizes how Aberfan is a small village that few people have heard of, combined with the idea of it being tucked away in a Welsh valley. There is thus the clear suggestion that it is almost hidden from view and would have been similarly forgotten in history had it not been for the tragedy. Indeed, we can infer also from the description of the railway tracks as decaying and the canal as disused that, like the British mining industry in general in the 1960s, the place is in decline. C. By contrast, D. In source B. London is described as a colossal city and the depiction of it, ceaselessly streaming and smoking, with its implication that the city is a hub of activity and industry, stands. In stark contrast with the stasis and general decay of Aberfan, this is mirrored in how the writer emphasizes that noises, shocks and tremors are so part of everyday life in the capital that Londoners are always startled to find it calm and quiet. This seems markedly different from Aberfan, which is made up of little more than terraced houses and a chapel and pub, a description which clearly implies the valley in which it is situated is quiet and normally quite peaceful.
So this is one revision task for you guys. You need to read the marking scheme below and highlight the skills you were tested on for this question. So you need to think carefully what the previous question, what the example question was asking you guys, and how would you answer that now?
For Q2 revision tasks, A. Read the mark scheme below and highlight 4 Q2 revision tasks. A. Read.
So now we are going to look at B part. What are they asking you in this? In the full sentences, please summarize the difference between the two pictures below, making inference about them. Use the sentences starters below to help you. So these are the some of the starters we have made for you guys, so that you understand what the difference is and how would you start a sentence. So let's get started now.
One immediate difference between the Maharajas Express in India and the Central Line in London appears to be, from the in the picture of the Indian train we can infer. By contrast, the in the picture of the Central Line implies that a further difference between the two train lines seems that see in full sentences in how we see in the picture of the Maharajas Express, whilst in the picture of the London Underground we see. This implies that see in full sentences in your books. Please answer Q2 for specimen paper A on page 9 and page 11.
So this is what you are supposed to use some of that. You need to write, refer to both the pictures. The experience of going on a train can be very different. Use details from both pictures to write a summary of a differences. That is normally 8 marks. What are the explic? So now there are two questions which you need to answer. The first and the second one. Try using the reference from the picture. Don't go against the picture to answer the questions.
In full sentences in your books, please answer Q2 for specimen paper A on page 9 and page 11. Read both sources for 10 minutes and then spend 10 to 15 minutes writing your answer. D. Compare your answer with the mark scheme and model answer on pages 12 and 13 and write targets. E. Complete Q2 on specimen paper B on pages 21 and 23. Then mark your answer and compare with the model answer on P24 and 25.
That was your second one. Now let's see what you're supposed to write in number 2 now.
Analyzing
Question 3,
language,
sorry.
12 marks, 15-20 minutes. What did the examiner's report say? RTFQ and ATFQ. In particular, you must pick quotations from the correct part of the text specified in the question. The key skill for this question is commenting on the effects of language, being precise about what words, similes, metaphors, etc. show about what the writer was trying to get about sentence forms and so what are the top get across? So what are the top tips for question 2? As question 3 is worth 12 marks, you have about 15 to 20 minutes to plan and answer this question. Embed and contextualize quotations in your paragraphs. Ensure your explanations of the effect of words, phrases linked to what the writer was trying to emphasize. Avoid writing about sentence forms unless you are exceptionally confident that your point is specific and relevant. Use some of the key terminology below. 1. Analyzing words and phrases. Evocative, descriptive phrases, which bring strong memories or images to mind. Noun, thing. A noun phrase is a phrase which functions as a noun, e.g., the tall, good-looking teacher. Adjectives, words which describe a noun, e.g., blue, dark, hard. Pre-modifying equals comes before the noun. Adverbs, words which describe a verb, adjective, e.g., quickly, brightly. Verbs, doing words. Stative verb, a word which represents doing something mental, e.g., think, ponder, wonder. Active verb, a word which represents a physical action, e.g., run, jump, fly. Modal verbs, e.g., should, would, could, might, can. Will. Imperative verbs, orders, e.g., shut up. Transitive verb, allows the subject to perform an action on an object, e.g., she slapped his face. Intransitive verb, an intransitive verb acts by itself, e.g., I sleep. Subjunctive verb, expresses something desired or imagined, e.g., I wish I wasn't in Mr. Forster's class. Semantic fields, words related to a particular topic, e.g., the semantic field of football equals Beckham, Ronaldo. Boot. Connotations, what we associate with a particular word, e.g., The color black often has negative connotations. 2. Analyzing language features and techniques. Figurative language o similes, e.g. His eyes were like shining stars o metaphors, e.g. His eyes were shining stars o personification, giving human characters to an object, e.g. The wind screamed. Emotive language, language meant to provoke a reaction. Alliteration, e.g. Angry ants. Sibyl ends, s sounds, plosives, p or b sounds. Assonance, repeated vowel sounds, e.g. the dolphin torn, the gone tormented. C. Consonants, repeated consonant sounds, e.g. the stuttering rifles. Rapid rattle. Plosives, p or b sounds. Sibyl ends, s sounds. Onomatopoeia, when words sound like their meaning, e.g. bang. Hyperbole, exaggeration for effect. Triadic structures, when the writer uses three adjectives to describe something, e.g. he was tall, fat and sweaty. Symbolism, when an object is used to represent an abstract idea, emotion, theme. Irony, the use of words to express something different from and often opposite to their literal meaning, or the incongruity between what might be expected and what actually occurs. Rhetorical questions, questions asked for effect. Illusion, a short reference to a person, event, other novel, etc. 3. Analyzing sentence forms. Only analyze these if you are very confident. S. Simple sentences. A sentence with one clause, e.g. The cat sat on the mat. Compound sentences. A sentence with a conjunction, e.g. The cat sat on the mat and ate a fish. Multiclausal. Complex sentences. A sentence with a subordinate clause, e.g. the cat, who was small and black, slipped into the room. Polysynthetic phrasing. A sentence with makes use of lots of conjunctions, e.g., the man was short and fat and as he walked sweat dripped down his large forehead. Asynthetic phrasing, a sentence or series of sentences which are not connected with conjunctions, e.g. the man was short. He was fat. He walked slowly. As he walked, sweat dripped down his large forehead. Declarative sentences, simple statements of fact or opinion, e.g., I like you. Exclamative sentences, sentences with exclamation marks, e.g., shut up. Repetition. Prepositional phrases, phrases which tell you where something is, e.g., under the rock there lived an ant. Passive case, a sentence which begins with the object, e.g., the boy was bitten by the dog. Active case, a sentence which begins with the subject, e.g., the dog bit the boy. So how do I structure a language paper? To question 3 response to ensure I answer it clearly. A topic sentence which picks out a technique and a TFQ. B a few embedded and contextualized examples of the technique. C zoom in on words in the example and explain what the writer was trying to emphasize. A TFQ. D go into more detail about what the writer was trying to get across and perhaps link in some further evidence. E evaluate what this also shows about the writer's purpose. A TFQ. So what does that look like for specimen paper? Only a wonder of the ancient world. A. The writer initially. Only a wonder of the ancient world. A. The writer initially uses similes to emphasize the sinister appearance of the coal tips. B. Lee describes, for example, how, to the younger generation, they had always been there, as though dumped by the hand of God, before comparing them to black pyramids rising in the western sky. See here, the verb dumped, along with the noun phrase black pyramids, depict both the haphazard way in which the mining waste had been left, along with the conical appearance and color of the coal tips themselves. D. Yet, perhaps more significantly, in the figurative idea of it being the hand of God, rather than a mining cooperation, that was responsible for this blight on the Welsh landscape. There is the suggestion also that the impending disaster was somehow preordained and part of their fate. Indeed, this also ties in with the connotations of black pyramids, for there is something ominous in both the color itself and in the association of the coal tips with those monuments. For Egyptian pharaohs, this is because the pyramids were, of course, not only a wonder of the ancient world, but also tombs. Ely thus ironically implies that the coal tips were a wonder of this small Welsh mining village, whilst equally setting up the worrying idea that the landslide would ultimately make Tip 7, like the pyramids, a tomb for the 100 children from Pantlas Junior School who would be smothered by that wave of stupefying filth as it fell upon the village.
Now you have revision task 3, in which you need to read the specimens paper A on page 9 and page 11 to label the quotations below with what language feature you can find.
E.g.I. This is a simile. I. To the younger generation, they had always been there, as though dumped by the hand of God.
And there are another ones you could also find are these ones here.
2. Rising like black pyramids. 3. Inching ominously down the mountain. IV. The newest tip, number 7, was a killer with a rotten heart. V. Treacherous of all foundations. Vi. Fatal seeping of water. VA. Mountain of moving muck. VI. Wave of stupefying filth. X. Instantly smothered. B. Now plan what you think the writer was trying to emphasize about the coal tips in specimen paper A on P9. See answer question 3 on specimen paper A on P11. You have 15 to 20 minutes to write your answer. D. Mark your answer using the mark scheme on P14 and compare it with the model answer on P15. E. Answer question 3 on specimen paper B on P2123. You have 15 to 20 minutes to write your answer. F. Mark your answer using the mark scheme on P26 and compare it with the model answer on P27.
Now you need to compare writer methods and ideas. That's question number 4. You're normally given that. And you have 16 marks for that. And how much time you need to spend? Around 20 to 25 minutes.
What did the examiner's report say? Spend around 20-25 minutes on this question. RTFQ and ATFQ. You must comment on methods and ideas so that they don't lose marks. Think of this, therefore, as a combination of the skills from questions 2 and 3. Introductions are not needed and rarely achieve marks. You should go straight into the answer. You should have a variety of synonyms at your disposal. E.G. Happy, sad, positive, negative. All of these are some and so place you in the bottom half of the mark scheme. Comparison needs to be explicit, saying, however, in source B, is not direct comparison of ideas methods.
So now, how do I structure a language in paper 2? That's question number 4. Response to ensure I answer it really clearly. So these are some of the things you have to keep in mind when you answer question 4 in your paper 2.
You could structure each paragraph like this. A topic sentence comparing the viewpoints of the two writers that ATFQ. B. Some embedded and contextualized quotations from source A which show this viewpoint. C. Zoom in on some words, phrases, language features from these quotations. Comment on the effect in detail and make inferences about what they show about the writer's perspective. D. A connective point contrasting the viewpoint in source B with what you just analyzed from source AF. Some embedded and contextualized quotations from source B which show this viewpoint. G. Zoom in on some words, phrases, language features from these quotations. Comment on the effect in detail and make inferences about what they show about the writer's perspective. Explain not only why this is different from source A but also how it is different. I repeat in another paragraph.
So now, can I look an example paragraph from the question of specimens paper B on page 23? For this question, you need to refer to the whole of source A together with the whole of source B. You need to compare how the writers conveyed their different views and experiences of the festival and fair they describe, and this is 16 marks. So these are some of the things you have to bear in mind while doing it.
She whilst initially seeming to parallel Day's comic Whilst both Glastonbury Festival and Greenwich Fair are described as chaotic events, it is immediately clear that the two writers had very different experiences. Being source A, for example, although Glastonbury seems disordered and confused, this mostly appears to be down to the weather rather than the crowds. Elizabeth Day even quotes one festival goer, Ed Thaw, as saying it is a very safe, family-friendly atmosphere, and she also emphasizes how the crowd remained good-humored throughout. See, there is a deliberate and playful juxtaposition here with her earlier description of tents floating away, chased by a group of shivering, half-naked people who look like the survivors of a natural disaster. The hyperbolic connotations of this semantic field, with its ironic suggestion that the clearly middle-class Pim's drinking festival goers were somehow comparable with the victims of a flood or hurricane, is clearly intended to be self-depreciating, mocking Day's preconceived ideas that the weather would ruin the event. D. By contrast, E. The chaos Dickens experienced at the Greenwich Fair seems to come from the people themselves, rather than the weather. F. Dickens depicts a state of perpetual bustle and noise, metaphorically describing the crowd as being dense and how they would swing you chaotically to and fro, and in and out. She, whilst initially seeming to parallel Day's comic depiction of the festival goers as survivors, Dickens' description lacks her wry humor. Instead, Dickens just creates a sense of disorder and confusion in a long list of noises which appear to demonstrate his enjoyment of the chaotic atmosphere. The screams of women, the shouts of boys, the clanging of gongs, the firing of pistols, the ringing of bells, the bellowings of speaking trumpets, the squeaking of penny dittos. This anaphoric catalog places a particular emphasis on the onomatopoeic verbs, screams, shouts, clanging, firing, ringing, bellowings, squeaking, hallooing, roar, which cumulatively build up a sense of cacophony and chaos, something which is markedly different from Day's experience with the well-spoken degree students sipping Pims and making polite chit-chat at Glastonbury.
So your revision task is how have a go at planning your answer in specimens paper 1 question 4 on page 9 and 11. In your plan, you should mind map how to compare their ideas, which quotations you will use, what language features you can analyze in these quotations, what interference can you make based on this evidence about the two writers, different audience and purposes in their pieces. This is what were they each trying to emphasize? Have a go with this question. You have 20 to 25 minutes to do this using the marking scheme of page 15 and the model question answer on page 17. Mark your answer. Have go at planning and doing specimen paper B. Question 4 on page 23. Using the marking scheme on 28, the model answer and question page 29. Mark your answer. So this is your Spencer's paper 1. You have a language P to insert. So this is something you have been given in your sample paper basically. And after that, you have been given a source. You'll be given a source like this, source A and source B. Source B would be a 19th century and non-fiction. You have to read it really carefully that you don't make any mistakes. And after that, you will be having questions like this. You have in specimens paper A, that's language P2 questions. Question 1 will be a really easy one. You just have to tick in the box and that'll be a 4 marks. You should not spend more than a minute, 2 minutes, more than 2 minutes in this one. Source B, as we told you before, would be a 8 marker. In this, you need to refer to source A and source B for this question. Both sources give you ideas about the places of the events occur. And source 3 is, question number 3 is normally a 12 marker. And you have been given in that, so please refer to the lines and stick to the lines, and you should not go outside these lines and don't give extra information. Then you have question number 4, that's a 16 marker, in which you were supposed to refer to the whole of source A together with the whole of source B. So you have to refer both of them, and what your answer should include is basically what we are going to tell you now.
In your answer, you could compare their different ideas and perspectives, compare the methods they use to convey their ideas and perspectives, support your response with reference to both text.
And your question 5 would be like A creative writing task that would be about floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, and landslides. We see more and more reports of environmental disasters affecting the world and its people every day. Write the text of a speech for a debate at your school or college in which you persuade young people to take more responsibility for protecting the environment. This is a 40 marker. You have to be really, really careful when you answer a 40 marker. And then this is the marking scheme which is being given to you guys in your specimens paper. I'm just going through them. So you should see what to include in these questions when you have something like that. So now this is a model answer. I'll stop here. This is what they are expecting you to write in your model answer for number 2. This is the language they want you to use, and if you use a language like this, you will be able to get really high grade in your GCSEs. So I'll stop in a minute here so that you all can take a screenshot what you write in your model answer too. This is what they're expecting you to write. And this is a marking scheme for your question number 3. You should refer to the source in line 27 to 40, and you should use the language to describe the core tips. So you have to be really careful to use. If you want to get level, they're all there. So if you want to get the level 4, that's the highest level, I think so. These are the things you should be including in your question number 3. These are the things you should include, and try to include more things, and don't try to write a lot, because this is some mistake I've seen the channels do. They keep writing a lot to see that they'll get a lot of marks. It's not that the way. So this is some of the examples of model answer 3 we have attached for you guys to have a look. Just try looking at them and try using some of the tips from these questions, answers, sorry, in your real GCSE exams tomorrow. So in question number 4, again you have to use some children, some teenagers really get confused with 3 and 4. So you need to think carefully what you're including in number 3 and number 4, because these questions look really similar to each other. Because in question number 4, what they're asking you is absolutely different what they're asking you in
For
number
this
3.
question, you need to refer to the whole of source A together the whole of source B. Compare how the writers convey their different ideas and perspectives of the events that they describe. 16 marks in your answer. You could compare their different ideas and perspectives. Compare the methods they use to convey their ideas and perspectives. Support your response with reference to both texts.
This is marking scheme. You could also find in the sample papers. And this is another question model answer for that. What you guys could write in your answers. You could take some tips from here. Just make some notes. I know it's the last minute, but you can still try making some of them so that you get really good grades tomorrow. Now you have question number 5. That's about, as I told you, it would be a creative writing, could be a descriptive writing, or could be a letter writing something. But in this one, they have given you about the floods, earthquakes, and it's 24 marks, and 16 mark is for your technical. So you have to be really, really careful what marks you guys would be getting.
24 marks for content and organization, 16 marks for technical accuracy.
So you need to be really careful what you're supposed to write in that. And again, This is the marking scheme which is attached for you guys to see what you could write here. You have to double check your sentences. Do your sentences or your writing has all these points what they have told you to include? If you have included these points, you will be getting level 4 and you would be able to get easily 13 to 16 marks if you would have included all these skills descriptors what they have told you. So this is the table what we have provided by the chief examiner for more information on how to differentiate between level 2 and level 3. So this is what they said that you should be including in both of them. So this is the Spencer's paper B. You guys would have seen this paper now. Again, the first question, as we told you, is a little easy one. You would have just done it yourself, all of you. Number 2, you need to spend 8 marks. And as this video has told you before, how many minutes you'll be spending in each of the questions. Festival and fair should be banned. The encourage. If you look at this one, in this, your question number 5 is similar to the one what they had given in the previous one. In this, they want you to write to the local newspaper. And again, they have attached the marking scheme for you to have a look at the marking scheme and see what you all could write in this. Remember to include whatever they have told you in the marking scheme. And again, they have a model answer for you all to see at the model answer to see what you guys have not included in your answers. Always stick to the ones what they're asking you in the answers. And number 4 is again, don't get confused with number 4 and number 5. This is something we have seen that everybody does. And again, they have given you example for answer, model answer. For this question, you need to refer to the source A and you have to stick to what they're asking you. Don't give extra information because examiner is not looking for extra information given by you guys. They want you to stick to the point what they're asking you and try to use lot of adjectives, good language, lot of vocabulary words so that you stand out from others. So there are some tips for the examiner which I wanted to share with you guys. Tip from the examiner. So let's just some of the tips what the examiner has given for question number 5.
Top tips from the examiner. To write less and to craft your writing more would be useful advice for all. You should think carefully about the form in which you have been asked to write, see below, and the purpose you are writing for. You should be careful when using mnemonics such as aforest, as it may hinder your creativity. You should be encouraged to plan and incorporate more structural features. You should consider whether the use of statistics and experts is useful to your argument. Planning is recommended to produce a coherent structure or argument. You should consider how to create an inventive structure for your argument. You should spend less time writing longer responses and more time checking, proofreading, and improving your work for technical accuracy.
So these are some of the high tips you have to remember what to do. And this is some tips you have to remember is breaking down the task requirements. Structure, language, audience, purpose. These are the things you have to keep in mind. You should always structure your writing. Structure means how.
Structure. How should you lay out this particular nonfiction piece? What features should you be consciously including in it? Language. What register should you be using? What tone might you try and communicate? Is this broadly factual, persuasive, or emotive? Audience. Who is this aimed at? What age, profession, etc. is the typical target reader?
And purpose, the main one.
Purpose. Why are you writing? What is the hopeful conclusion that will be drawn from your piece?
And these are the some things you have to think about: the headings, the subheadings, the first person, how you'll be writing your newspaper article. Basically, these are the things you have to keep in mind. And there's always, you have to remember, these are your tips: one paragraph, then question other side, reason for your arguments, why you are arguing. You should always give your reasons why others disagree. If you agree with it or you disagree with it, why do the others disagree with that? What we can do, we should not do, your facts, and explain why they are wrong. And there's another example which I've seen it's always there: mobile phones are danger to all. Write a speech for assembly arguing either for or against this statement. So if you are given something like that, you stick to what they're asking you. You have to stick to friendly introduce, making it clear it is a speech, direct address. Imagine this column. So this is the things you could write about this one. Always write why you agree and why the other person disagree, and always try using a conclusion in the end what they're asking you. Conclusion instructions, you always have to write the conclusion in the end. Don't forget arguments, and don't do the conclusion in the end, because conclusion is something everybody's looking for. So there's another example now. You can see is pride is your hometown. In what makes a difference? Write a letter to the editor, to your local newspaper. If you look at this one, I feel like you might be getting something about the local newspaper, or you would get something about COVID, because COVID is still there. So they would tell you to write a letter how to stay with COVID or how to live with COVID. Write a newspaper article about that. So you could against it and favor it. You guys are really clever these days. You could do that. Another one is that teenagers don't understand the law surrounding and consequences of drinking, because they like drinking a lot when you go to parties and things like that. And you have to write a leaflet for teenagers to inform them about the facts about undergo alcohol consumption. So, I mean, you should not drive when you are having alcohol. This is something all of you should make sure. So, these are things you could think about when you're writing tomorrow. Another one which is really common is climate change. You know that it's still going on. Every time they keep saying about the climate change. So you could get something about climate change is a global problem. Write and an individual one. Write an essay to persuade individuals to take responsibility for the environment. So I'll stop here, or for you all to read this article, because I think so. This is something which I feel like might come, because it's still a going on process. It's still very famous, and you might get something with this. I'll stop here so you could take a screenshot and try writing something like that. Another one is like, um, write a blog in which you inform readers about something that you really hate and explain the reason for this. Again, 40 marks. Or there's another one you could get is write an entry for your blog describing your favorite time of year and explaining why you like it. And if you see that in this, the example they have given is about winter. Another one is your school or your college is inviting entries for a writing competition. The topic is dangerous activities and pastimes are selfish, often put others at risk, and should be discouraged. Write your entry. So you have to stick to the topic. Don't try writing something against the topic, and try using a good language, and try using lots and lots of things. And another one, they have given you a lot of things. You could see that these are the things could come. These are some of the other questions which might come. That's the last one. So basically, the tips for you guys is to read the questions carefully. Don't spend more time on something you guys are struggling in, because you could always come back to what you're struggling than spending your time more on questions like that. And try using good language techniques in your answers, because techniques is something they all are. Because techniques is something all of you should be using in your entrances. So this is something I wanted to make a video for you guys. I hope that this video is useful and all of you get really good grades in your GCSEs. Please don't forget to comment below and tell us how did your paper go tomorrow after your English language, and just spread the word of these uh, channel to your friends, because we'll be uploading a lot of videos. And if you see, this channel was basically doing a lot of videos about 11 plus, and it started doing for your GCSEs now. So I hope this video is useful, and thanks for looking at this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We also have a TikTok channel in which we have uploaded lots of videos for you guys. That's it now.